Hey, it's Jeremy from Jeremy.net. I am a comic book artist, writer, creator, self-publisher. I share my creative process here with you live online on the internet. If you find these videos useful, interesting, and you would like to get additional bonus blog content, behind the scenes videos, exclusive Patreon live stream once a month, you can support this channel at patreon.com/Jeremy. That's patreon.com/GERIMI. If you would like to read some of my comic books for free, you can preview them at news.jeremy.net. And if you'd like to purchase physical copies of my books, you can get them at amazon.jeremy.net. They'll forward you to my Amazon author page. So I had to cut my earlier live stream short today. So I figured I was going to try and get on tonight and do a little bit of a mini live stream. And if anybody in the chat, let me know, because I'm trying a new way of, I'm trying new headphones to capture the audio for the stream. So I'm not sure if you guys are picking up this sound through the headphones, or you're picking up the speaker and the mic. So let me know if you're hearing audio at all. Let me know if it sounds better or worse than it usually does, and I can just make adjustments from there. So, all right, you know what? We're going to get a little bit of mirroring just for a sec. I'm going to turn on the audio on my tablet just so I can hear whether it's coming through. Because every time I change stuff, I always got to check what's going on. All right, it sounds like it's working. You guys let me know if the sound quality is acceptable, unacceptable, better or worse than usual. Anyway, earlier I got you guys caught up on the fact that I'm working on a Stephen King themed series of Alice in Wonderland illustrations, and I think I will go with the Mad Hatter, since that's what I have up here on my sketch pad. So just need to get me a little piece of white paper to put underneath so that the vellum will pop to reduce the translucency or transparency of the vellum. All right. So this is just a stack of thumbnails, various things I worked on, changed. Oh, I see the Squish. Squish show is on. Thank you. I'm glad the audio is working well. I saw that you were at that Zapper show earlier. I saw you posting on Instagram. I hope the show went well for you. Travis Frederick's in the chat. What's up, man? Thanks for showing up again. Sorry that the first time was cut so short, but you know, family emergencies come up, gotta care of stuff. That is how life goes. Excuse me. So, all right. Well, I guess I'm just gonna dive in, and I think all I really need is, I think this thumbnail. I don't even really need this. This thumbnail down here really seems to capture what I'm going for concept-wise. It's a much smaller image, but it really, I think that this one captures everything, I think, even better than the larger sketch that I did. And I think the only reason why I did this was just because I was doing larger thumbnails of everything and looking and seeing if the details, there were any details I needed to work out at this larger scale, which, no, I don't really think so. And the Squish Show says that the Zappers convention was a fun time. So I'm glad that show went well. I hope you got plenty of great interviews, Squish. I hope that your friend Dan got a bunch of great sketches in as well and enjoyed that. Kept you in stitches, kept entertaining. Hopefully you'll be putting out a YouTube video of your Zappers convention adventures soon. So for me, I usually just get my start with my rough red pencil, my red pencil for doing roughs, or my rough layouts. My electric eraser, not a kneaded eraser, but a plastic eraser. It's a nub of a Mars Stadler plastic eraser. And I was tempted to place this on the lip of my drawing table when I realized every time I place that eraser on the edge of something, it falls and breaks. In fact, let me put this instead on this clipboard so I don't have to worry about it slipping off of the table all the time as I draw. So, like many artists, I try to just work from big to small. See some more comments in the chat. Squish says that Dan forgot to bring Squish's merchandise. But he did, but Squish, we'll give him that he really did a nice Red Sonja sketch cover. I think he's putting on his Instagram. Well, I'll have to go and give that Red Sonja cover a nice big heart. Give it a good like. I know you guys always have fun when you're out. Yeah, I actually really missed being on the kitchen scene, but my whole reason for pulling back from shows this year has just been that the actual number of hours I've spent making art has not been anywhere near what it's been in the past. And I've just been trying to return to what I feel is a appropriate level, because on one hand, you got to go out there and build an audience. No one deserves an audience or is owed an audience. You have to go out, put your work in front of people, get to know them, share what you're doing. Hopefully, it connects with them, and you slowly build an audience. On the other hand, if you're the challenge that I've been forced to cope with is if I'm not actually at home making new work, then I don't have anything to share with people. I don't have anything to build an audience with. And I've really been conscious of how much that's been lacking over the past year. I really feel like I've slumped off in my production. So, get back at the drawing table, do some artwork, do some comics. Squish might want to hear the origin story of how this Alice in Wonderland series came about. So I originally, I was having a nightmare one night. And I already shared this story on my Patreon, along with some of the first sketches and first thumbnails for this series. But basically, I had this dream one night that I was in a high school gymnasium, and it was very, very dark. Felt very similar to some of the gym scenes in, I think it was season 2 of Stranger Things. But anyway, in this dream, I'm in a high school gym, and I'm with a bunch of, they're not specific people. Like I could actually say it's this friend or that friend, but the people in the dream are supposed to be a group of friends of mine. And we're in this dark room, and we hear a door open in the far side of the gym, and we hear that sound that those alien Muppets make, the yip 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 yip, yip 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 yip, and it's a weird, creepy thing to hear when you're in a big dark room, but it's also kind of a comical sound. And somebody has a flashlight, and they shine it in the direction of the sound, and there's an open door. And what comes trundling out of the door, lurching out, is Pennywise from It. And he's looking like his eyes are just drooping, and he's kind of like, he's not even trying to look scary, but he's just drooling and dead-eyed and looking at you, and he's making the noise, and you're watching his mouth doing the yip, 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 and we just see him kind of just slowly lurching out of this dark doorway at the end, at the far end of the gym, and then we see him turn, and there's somebody in the darkness, like in between us and him, and we turn the flashlight to see that it's another person, and they're just sort of backing up from him, obviously terrified. It's pretty damn terrifying. And they're like, no, no. And And then we turn the flashlight back because we hear more of that noise. And now we see that there's like 5 or 7 of Pennywise. Like he's multiplied, and they're all coming out of this doorway, and they all are just making that same yip 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 and they're just dead-eyed. And now it's creepy because you're hearing it in stereo over and over, and they're all like slightly out of sync with each other, and it's just so unsettling. And then we hear a scream, and the person turns the flashlight back, and there's now there's a person, the person that was in between us and Pennywise is being devoured by him. Like actually turned, you can just see his he's like just biting into his chest, kind of like the guy eaten by Pennywise in the opening scene of It Chapter 2. That was out in theaters a couple of months ago, which I did see in theaters, and is probably a large reason for me having these nightmares. But yeah, so we see his chest ripped open, his heart eaten out, and then we hear the now louder, and we turn the flashlight back, and now the gym is like flooded with like 20 or more, 20 or 30 Pennywise just pouring out of them, and now they're like all almost right on top of us. And then one of them reaches out and reaches the person who has the flashlight and just grabs their hand, and the flashlight falls to the ground, and it goes black, and that's the end of the dream. So, excuse me while I take a sip of water. So, I have this dream, this nightmare, and I wake up, and it's the middle of the night. It's like 4 in the morning. It's pitch black. Not pitch black. There's enough room by like the little on the cable box that we can see, that I can see the outline of one of our cats who is sleeping on my lap, as she frequently does. And you know how like your mind is a little bit, when you've just woken up from a dream, you're still in semi dream state, even though you're conscious. So I wasn't hallucinating, I wasn't seeing things, but I imagined, after hearing that, like I saw my cat in the sleep, and the cat recognized that I was awake and just meowed, just quietly, like, oh, just know that I'm up. But in my like kind of half dream conscious state, I imagined what would it be like if I looked over and my cat turned and looked at me, and it was my cat, and it meowed in my cat's voice, but it turned and it had Pennywise's head, and that just sent chills down my spine. So I didn't see that, but I imagined it. I just thought of that. I had that thought fresh from a nightmare, and that was chilling. So I have that thought, and then I think to myself, like, my mind just goes, people always ask, where do ideas come from? Well, they come from nightmares, they come from dreams, they come from thoughts, they have conversations, they're inspired by movies that you see. I had this thought of, once I imagined my cat, I thought of my cat as, say, the Cheshire Cat. That was the next thing. And I thought, the Cheshire Cat. And then I thought the Cheshire Cat as Pennywise would be really creepy. And once I thought of that, I was off to the races. Like, I started kind of composing a sketch in my head of what the image would look like. And while I mentioned this in my earlier live stream today, that while I usually will keep a drawing pad by my just a notepad by my night table, so that if I do get an idea in the middle of the night, I can write it down, because I'm afraid I'll forget it when I wake up. I did not make it a point to get up and put the light on and write this down, because I was up probably for another hour. And unlike most nightmares, you'll have a nightmare and then you'll be up for an hour because you just can't go back to sleep and you're terrified. In this case, I actually had a nightmare, and you know what? I realized as I'm drawing this, I started working first by drawing the face of the Mad Hatter, Then I started by drawing the hat using that as a composition. I realized that I'm going about this all wrong. I need to start with the chair that Mad Hatter is sitting in. So I am erasing this for the third time, and this time I'm going to start with just framing the chair and then working the proportions of the figure into that. Because as it is right now, I'm not going to fit everything that I'm imagining in the image into it. So I'm going to try that instead. But anyway, so I'm in there in the dark middle of the night, and I'm imagining this whole like Cheshire Cat thing. I thought that's a really good piece. I should do that as an illustration, maybe do it as a print. And then I started thinking, well, what are some other Alice in Wonderland characters that I could do and work in that some Stephen King type themes and inspirations. And after seeing down a bunch of sketches and thumbnails, I came up with a white queen or a queen of hearts, a white rabbit, Mad Hatter. And the Queen of Hearts actually had two different compositions that I really liked. Well, it's the same composition. It's just the White Queen is doing two different things in them, which I showed those earlier in today's live stream. But I liked them so much I couldn't really decide which one I wanted. So I thought, you know what? I will do two of that particular character, even though that wasn't even the one that started this whole idea. I just thought it's nice and creepy. I think I'm going to do that. So now I'm starting by framing in this really big chair for a tea party. And I got to decide exactly how much, because really, in a way, the Mad Hatter almost isn't even the key feature. I've gone back and forth here. In my original thumbnail, the bowl is very, very small, but then I've made the bowl very large. In this second thumbnail I've had, I do have to make it large enough that when I put the paper hat in there, it feels, I just want it to read is the main thing. So a lot of times I'll look at my thumbnails and just in terms of working out stuff, I'll figure out, all right, so if I half this, that goes through the character's head. If I go through a quarter of that, then the bowl seems to be right, filling up the space, the bottom quarter of the image. And even that, you've only got about half of it is the opening and then half of it is the base. So if I were to say, divide this in half, that's probably a little high. Yeah, okay, let's put that down here. And then go down. Let's say that the bowl is down in this bottom part. You know, and part of me says this would be a lot easier if I just used the ellipse template to draw this in, but just assume start by roughing the shape in. I'm a little tired, had a long weekend. I am looking forward to getting back to my regular live streaming schedule in terms of like being Sunday mornings, only because missed last week, and I think the week before I did one, but then missed the week before, and then cutting the earlier part of today short. Life gets so hectic and chaotic, and You try to keep a schedule, you try to keep things simple. It doesn't always work. And I felt a lot of guilt in a way about pausing my work on Morningstar to do a side project because I'd like to think that I've been pretty good about, you know, one project at a time and really staying consistent and focused on it, particularly considering how long it's been taking me to get to this final issue of Morningstar. But the truth is I'm not going to finish that final issue before the end of 2019. I mean, hopefully things will go smoothly and I will blow through the pencils and blow through the inking and I'll have it done, you know, early next year, but I'm not counting on it. If past experience has shown me anything, you know, I'll be lucky if I get it done in time for WonderCon next year. But that said, it's also not often that an idea falls out of my head fully formed that I find so utterly compelling that I feel like I must do it. And at a certain point, you know, one of the things that's compelling about being an artist is being able to respond to those compulsions. You know, when you have an idea, to be able to say, I'm going to take this out and do something with it. You know, having the ability to generate ideas, and then having the ability to execute them. In the end, it seems like the big problem, the one thing that we creatives frequently don't have is the time to execute them. So yeah, this is going to be all black with little ripples coming out from the boat. And it's going to say, S. You know what? That's a little too large. Also, by the way, these layouts are pretty small. Not pretty small, but if I were to grab the finish, like this is the Cheshire Cat one that I showed earlier today. I've already got it inside a plastic wrap, but you can see the size of this in comparison to the this is 8.5 by 11. And this is 11 by 14. So you know, it's a good size, larger than the rough layout. So I think that putting the wording in here, I want to make it a little bit smaller because I don't want it to overwhelm the piece. I want it to be sort of a subtle little Easter egg for those deep Stephen King fans. I'm just going to put it kind of subtle in here because when I fix it, it's going to be flipped backwards, which is going to be weird, I think, for anybody that buys the layout drawing. But yeah, what are you going to do? Screw it. It is nice to get back to just drawing. And I think that was probably one of the other reasons why, you know, I don't necessarily, I didn't have to jump to doing this, but I've been doing so much thumbnailing and then starting to do the lettering on Morningstar. And I know that when I look at the videos, my perception of my comic book process is that penciling and inking to me look like they are the most interesting phases of the videos that I share. And the fact that it's been a good long while since I've had a video of me inking, particularly inking. I think that's my pencils are so loose that a lot of the drawing really does come together in the ink stage. So I felt like not having done any inking in a while, just having a new piece to do that with would jazz up what I'm doing. Then some more interesting videos out there. I feel a sneeze coming on, but it doesn't want to actually manifest. It's just sort of tickling my nose. Oh wait, here it comes. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Allergy season, and it's fire season in LA, so it is doing a number on the sinuses. So yeah, it's just come in here and draw on a simple little Mad Hatter. Got like a large bulbous head. And it's funny because I don't really usually do cartoony illustrations, but this one is equal parts cartoony and creepy. It's just for me sitting here and playing with the proportions, trying to get them just right. I feel like maybe as much as I put that shape of the chair there, I need to decide what shape I want both the chair and his sort of profile silhouette to be. Like I should pull. Well, let's see. That's a good question. Do I pull his shoulders in so that they're completely contained in the chair, or do I push them out more? This is a weird, creepy little guy. I feel like he shouldn't necessarily have broad shoulders. I'm gonna be sort of creepy and wiggly. Well, see, now as I look at this, I feel like it's the proportions are just feel like they're a little bit wrong to me. They don't really line up with what was in my thumbnails, and that's fine if it takes on its own life and becomes something different. Now I've reached that point in an illustration where I need to stop looking at the thumbnail and just draw until it looks like what I want it to feel like. I definitely feel like this boat and the bowl is too large. Even though I went through and I looked at my proportions and I said it's 1/4 of the page and blah, 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 it just doesn't feel right to me. And I do that a lot, in the layout stage. In fact, sometimes I almost feel like that's the real big challenge is the thumbnail is loose enough that I can say, yeah, it captures the idea, but it's still this rough it's an incomplete drawing in the sense that it doesn't have exact proportions and exact boundaries. Um, and even if they do, they're certainly not what the actual paper is, the paper I'm drawing on. So there's a point in any particular idea that I'm sketching out where I have to step back from the idea and just see, all right, what do I want it to say on the paper? How do I want it to look? How do I want it to read? So I'm kind of going back and forth between my thumbnail and that original drawing that I did where I was trying the hat in and the face, and I was like, oh, this works well for me. Knowing how much of the eyes I want to show. And I'm always trying to do this thing, these where I've got one eye facing forward and then one eye facing off to the side. So I thought that that was really creepy in the It movie. So yeah, from this point on, it's just moving pieces around until they really feel like what I want them to feel like. So it's trying to push the emotional feeling of the thumbnail into the dimensions of what's on my layout page. So this was shorter than my live streams usually are, but again, I also did a short live stream earlier today, and I can't just stay up all night because I'm gonna have to get up in the morning and work, and I know that if I stay here at the drawing table working on this, I may feel very happy in the moment, but I will feel miserable tomorrow when I get up and start preparing for the day. It's not particularly late on the West Coast, but one thing I've been decently sticking to is making a much stronger effort to go to bed at a reasonable hour and get, if not 8 hours sleep, trying to get as close to 7 hours of sleep as possible. So there's more to come on this guy. Honestly, by the time we get to next week's live stream, I expect that I will be done at least with this guy. If not, I would love to come back next week and just say, hey, I finished the whole series. They're done. And then just walk you through the rest of them. I don't know if I'll finish inking all of them. Maybe I'll have one left to ink and I'll share that with you. And I'll start working digitally on colors over the layout drawings. So that way you guys can get to see a little bit of me inking and then get to see a little bit of me doing digital painting. But for now, I am going to have to bid you all adieu. So for those that hopped on and caught me in this late Sunday live stream, I appreciate you spending a little bit of time with me. Enjoyed this and would like to support this channel and get additional bonus content, like I said at the top, patreon.com/GERIMI. To read my comic book Morning Star, which is Lucifer's Fall from Heaven, told as a Western, you go to news.jeremy.net, and to purchase physical copies of my comics. You get the first volume of Morning Star. You can get my previous graphic novel, Eye of the Gods. You can get my art book, Wow. You can go to amazon.jeremy.net. That will forward you to my Amazon author page. Thank you for joining me this evening. That's it for now. Go be creative.